parents have some concerns of some stuff they may have found in your room?
Yeah, I believe so.
And what would it be?
A human head and hands.
Like, for real human head and hands?
Yes.
Imagine seeing a quiet teenager walking down the street, not knowing he carried a darkness that had been growing inside him for years. This is the story of Brian Thomas Cohee Jr., a 19-year-old whose obsession with violence and serial killers spiraled into one of the most disturbing murders Colorado has ever seen. A crime so brutal, so calculated, that even seasoned investigators struggled to comprehend the level of horror he unleashed on an innocent man.
From?
That fellow who went missing recently.
Which fellow was that?
Warren Brown.
Warren Brown? When did he go missing?
The night of the 27th.
The night of the 27th? Okay, and how did you end up with him?
I murdered him.
With what?
A knife.
Why would you have done that?
I've always wondered what murder felt like.
The victim who hurt no one. The story begins in Grand Junction, Colorado, where locals knew a gentle, unhoused man named Warren the Reading Man Barnes. Warren was 69 years old. He spent most mornings sitting in a chair behind a bridal shop, quietly reading books, waving at passers-by, and minding his own business. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't confrontational. He was simply a peaceful soul trying to exist in a world that had been harsh to him. People knew him for his kindness and calm presence, and tragically, that gentle nature made him a perfect target for someone searching for a vulnerable victim. A troubled teen with dark fascinations. On the surface, Brian Cohee looked like any awkward 19-year-old. But beneath that exterior lived a disturbing obsession that had been growing for years. As a child and teenager, Cohee struggled with ADHD and autism.
I have high-functioning Asperger's.
Okay.
I have ADHD and major depressive disorder.
Okay.
Major depressive, so you were wondering what made that last one is?
Finding social interactions difficult and often retreating into dark interests.
For years, I was wondering what murder would feel like, because you read like Ted Bundy and the Zodiac, they all say murder is the best feeling in the world. So I'm like, I'm going to try that.
Okay.
So for some time I had been wondering when it would happen. I always knew I would be in this building, whether it was as a criminal or a police officer.
Okay.
By high school, he had become openly fascinated with serial killers, especially Jeffrey Dahmer. Students even began calling him Dahmer because of the disturbing things he talked about. And it didn't stop with fantasies. Cohee once admitted to killing a cat and keeping its head in his home for days. He later told investigators it made him feel powerful. These were not random outbursts, they were warning signs. Signs that something dangerous was forming inside him. Something no one ever stopped. The night of unimaginable violence. On February 27, 2021, Cohee acted on a plan he'd been thinking about for months. Wearing 3 pairs of gloves, a mask, and blue coveralls, he left his home carrying a 12-inch kitchen knife. He drove to an underpass.
I was driving, and I saw a strange shape near the railway. So I parked my car and investigated it, and I found it to be a man sleeping.
Okay. Where's the knife at?
It is in my sunken car. Well, it's in
Where homeless individuals often slept, including Warren Barnes. Warren was asleep under a tarp when Cohee approached.
After cruising around for over an hour, he stumbled upon Warren Barnes, who was sleeping under a tent beneath the bridge near the Messer County Sheriff's Department.
And I see a shape here on the railway track, so I'm like...
What happened next is almost impossible to comprehend. Cohee later confessed that he stabbed Warren repeatedly while making animalistic growling sounds. He said he kept going until Warren stopped moving.
And I was driving along, and I see a shape here on the railway track, so I'm like, oh, interesting. So I grabbed my knife, I put on 3 layers of gloves, because plastic gloves can betray their users because they're so thin, those vinyl gloves, by imprinting your fingerprints through. So I put on 3 on one hand. I took the knife, I pulled back the canvas, and I stabbed his neck. He was panicking at first in his old man voice. He was in his 50s. I know why I call him old man. He was saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Why? Ah!" And I just kept on stabbing his neck.
Until there was no life left in him. But the violence didn't end there.
Is it okay if I do a demonstration?
Oh, yeah.
This is him. I was strapped on top of him like this.
Okay.
And he couldn't fight back. It was actually surprisingly easy. I was barely breaking a sweat. I thought, oh, this guy, he's going to be tough. But no, it was actually surprisingly easy.
Cohey then dismembered Warren's body, removing his head and hands and storing them in plastic bags. He left other body parts under the bridge, but took the most identifying remains with him.
How's it related?
Well, when I killed him, I tried disposing of his body by putting it in the river, but
Okay,
I parked too low in the river. And
Where's the rest of his body at?
Huh?
Where's the rest of the body at?
What parts?
The body, Brian. Where's his body?
Down the river.
He drove home, with Warren's severed head in the car. The discovery that shook an entire community. 2 days later, on March 1st, 2021, Cohey's mother, Terry, discovered a trash bag hidden in her son's closet.
Terry and Brian Cohey called 911. It was an absolutely shocking moment. They had just found a decomposing head in their son Brian Jr.'s closet in his room.
Inside it were human remains, later confirmed to be Warren's head and hands. Terrified, she immediately called the police. Investigators arrived and, after opening the bags, were confronted with the horrifying truth. Brian was arrested that same day. During his interview, he was shockingly calm. He confessed to everything: the planning, the murder, the dismemberment. When asked why he did it, he gave a chillingly simple answer. "I wanted to know what murder felt like." He even told police he deleted photos of the body because they were evidence. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a moment of impulse. It was deliberate and deeply disturbing. Insanity or intention? The court battle begins. As the investigation unfolded, the question became, was Cohey mentally unstable to the point he didn't understand what he was doing? Or did he knowingly plan the murder of a vulnerable man? His defense argued that autism, ADHD, and depression pushed him into a psychotic break, but prosecutors pushed back hard. Their evidence showed Cohey planned the murder for months. He selected a vulnerable victim he believed wouldn't be missed.
Brian Jr. told investigators he chose a homeless victim he assumed no one would miss. He was wrong. No memorial where Warren spent the last terrifying moment of his life. Instead, it's here in the breezeway.
He prepared clothing and gloves to avoid leaving evidence. He cleaned up and tried to destroy incriminating material. Psychologists for the prosecution concluded Cohey knew what he was doing, that he understood right from wrong and acted intentionally. This wasn't a breakdown. This was a calculated killing. Guilty verdict and a life behind bars. The trial began on January 17, 2023. Over days of testimony, jurors heard Cohey's confession, saw the evidence, and listened to psychological evaluations. It took them just 2 days to make their decision. Guilty on all charges, including first-degree murder, tampering with a dead human body, tampering with physical evidence. On February 6, 2023, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus over 13 additional years. Even as the sentence was read, Cohey showed almost no emotion. A community remembers the reading man. After the case, the people of Grand Junction mourned Warren deeply. He wasn't wealthy. He didn't have much family, but he had a presence that mattered. In his honor, the community built a bronze memorial reading chair, decorated with books and birds.
2 weeks of heart-wrenching testimony, including the defendant's mother reliving the horrific moments nearly 2 years ago when she found a rotting human head in her son's closet. Evidence so disturbing it brought jurors to tears.
A tribute to the man who sat peacefully behind a bridal shop with a novel in hand. Warren's life had meaning, and his memory continues to live through those who saw him, loved him, and now refuse to let him fade.
Newly laid flowers now blow in the wind, along with books and litter at the site where Warren Barnes was brutally murdered.
Conclusion. In a quiet Colorado town, A gentleman was targeted simply because he was vulnerable.
Judge Gurley sentenced Cohey to the rest of his natural life in prison plus 13 and a half years without parole. Justice served, and while Warren is gone, he will never be forgotten.
And a troubled young man acted on a fantasy he admitted he'd been waiting to explore. The murder of Warren Barnes forces us to ask difficult questions. How many warning signs go unnoticed? How many vulnerable people walk through life unprotected? And how does fascination turn into obsession? And then into violence? As Cohey spends the rest of his life behind bars, the legacy of Warren the Reading Man Barnes continues, a reminder that every life, no matter how quiet, carries value. If this story gripped you, like the video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Judge Wire for more real-life true crime stories that uncover the truth behind the headlines.
Police telling Dahlia her husband of just 6 months was murdered.
Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, man. He's been killed.
The Dahlia DiPolito case introduction. Imagine marrying the person you believe is your soulmate, and within months, plotting their murder. This is the story of Dahlia DiPolito.
She is Boynton Beach's most unlikely and notorious celebrity.
I didn't do anything.
A young woman from Florida whose picture-perfect marriage turned into one of the most bizarre crime cases ever caught on camera.
I never thought in a million years, honestly, that she'd try to kill me.
It's all still sinking in for Michael DiPolito. The plot, his wife Dahlia hatched to have him murdered.
I'm positive, like 5,000% sure.
A story of deception, obsession, and a murder-for-hire plot so unreal, it played out like a reality show, literally. Background: the perfect couple? Dahlia Muhammad was born on the 18th of October 1982 and grew up in Boynton Beach, Florida. She was beautiful, confident, and loved living a flashy lifestyle. In early 2009, she married Michael DiPolito, a man who was trying to rebuild his life. Michael had a past. He'd served time for securities fraud and was still on probation. But he was also charming, financially stable, and ready to start fresh. To everyone else, Dahlia seemed like the perfect partner for his new beginning. The couple's relationship appeared ideal. They owned a nice townhouse, went out to dinners, and posted happy pictures together. But behind those smiles, cracks were already forming. And within just 6 months, Dahlia would be accused of plotting something unthinkable.
I'm positive, like 5,000% sure.
She was talking about having me killed, like ordering, a bologna sandwich, like, hey, give me one of those with that. Like, it wasn't very, it didn't mean anything to her, and that's the creepy part of it.
Motive: money, control, and lies. According to investigators, Dahlia wanted more control financially and emotionally. Michael's probation and criminal record limited their lifestyle, and she began to feel trapped.
She says Mike failed to mention he was a convicted felon. Years ago, he'd been to prison for fraud after scamming investors out of tens of thousands of dollars.
But instead of leaving, she started planning. She reached out to an ex-boyfriend named Mohammed Shihadeh and asked him for help, not to talk, but to find a hitman. Shocked, Mohammed went straight to the Boynton Beach Police Department. From that moment on, police decided to play along, setting up one of the most unbelievable sting operations ever caught on film, the Sting Operation. In late July 2009, police arranged for Mohammed to meet Dahlia in a gas station parking lot. Hidden cameras captured her calmly discussing how she wanted her husband killed. 2 days later, Dahlia met the supposed hitman, who was actually an undercover police officer. She sat in his car, explaining where her husband lived, his daily routine, and the best time to do it. Then came the moment that made headlines.
One of those men is in the front seat of this car.
Your life straight after this, seriously, don't ever do
And they're not talking about the weather.
Killing somebody, come on. I mean, that's, nobody's gonna be able to point a finger at me.
When the officer asked how sure she was about going through with it, Dahlia replied, "I'm like 5,000% sure."
I'm positive, like 5,000% sure.
She handed him cash, a photo of Michael, and promised more payment after the job was done. That was all police needed. With everything on tape, they decided to stage a fake murder scene with help from the TV show Cops, which just happened to be filming with the local department at the time. The fake crime scene. On the morning of August 5th, 2009, police set up a fake crime scene at the DiPolito's townhouse. Yellow tape, police cars, even fake forensic photos, it all looked horrifyingly real.
That whole crime scene? It's fake. Police claim Dahlia ordered a hit on her husband and that they have hidden camera video to prove it.
When Dahlia returned home from the gym, officers told her that her husband had been shot. She broke down in apparent grief.
Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, man, he's been killed.
Sobbing and shaking as cameras rolled. It became one of the most viral crime clips ever seen. But just hours later, everything changed. At the police station, Dahlia sat in an interrogation room. Suddenly, the door opened, and in walked Michael alive and unharmed. She froze. The officers then told her the truth. Her husband wasn't dead. The entire thing had been a setup.
Her attorney, Brian Claypool, says Dahlia is the innocent victim of a fame-hungry police department.
This case is about a police department that tossed her under the bus for purposes of getting fame on a cops TV show.
He points to that now infamous moment when police staged a fake crime scene and told Dahlia DiPolito that her husband was dead.
And she was under arrest for solicitation of first-degree murder.
Dahlia says it was all part of a plan she hatched with her then-husband, Michael DiPolito, and former lover, Mohammed Shahadi, to get famous.
So this was acting?
But prosecutors say that was no act and allege she promised to pay this undercover cop posing as a hitman to kill her husband of 6 months.
Trials and twists. The case went viral instantly. Footage from cops, interrogation tapes, and sting videos flooded the internet. In 2011, Dahlia went to trial. Her defense was that the entire thing had been staged, that Michael had worked with police to humiliate her for television.
Dahlia's defense team said Michael hatched the plot for reality TV fame.
But prosecutors weren't convinced. They played the recordings of her meetings and her own chilling words. "I'm 0% sure." The jury took only a few hours to find her guilty.
The plot, his wife Dahlia hatched to have him murdered.
I'm positive, like 5,000% sure.
She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. However, her lawyers appealed, arguing that the jury selection had issues. They won a new trial.
Taking the stand for the first time since her arrest in 2009 and her conviction in 2011.
I was accused of something that I didn't do.
The second trial ended in a mistrial after jurors couldn't reach a verdict. But in 2017, a third trial was held. Once again, Dahlia was found guilty and sentenced to 16 years in prison.
Looks like it's all over for the newlywed accused of hiring a hitman to do away with her husband.
We find the defendant guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder.
Sobs rang out as the verdict was announced.
She tried appealing all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, but every attempt was denied. Aftermath and legacy today, Dahlia DiPolito remains behind bars.
Nearly 10 years after she was convicted in a murder-for-hire plot to kill her husband, Dahlia DiPolito is taking her case to the nation's highest court. According to court documents, DiPolito filed a request with the U.S. Supreme Court to review her case. She claims she was set up by the jury.
Her story continues to fascinate true crime audiences, not just because of what she did, but because of how it unfolded. The entire sting was caught on camera, sparking debates about media ethics, police tactics, and the strange overlap between reality TV and real crime.
The cops show just happened to be here at the time of this investigation. We're not in the business of producing television. We're in the business of saving lives, and we believe we did that in this case.
Some people believe she was manipulated or entrapped. Others see it as a clear case of greed, betrayal, and emotional manipulation gone too far.
What's been the hardest part?
Not knowing when it's over, not being able to leave, watching everybody around me being able to come and go as they want, and I can't do that, and just trying to be happy for them as they're coming back and forth and stuff.
Either way, the Dahlia DiPolito case remains one of the most shocking crime-for-hire stories in modern American history. Conclusion: what began as a whirlwind romance ended in handcuffs, national headlines, and a lifetime of regret. It's a chilling reminder that love can blind us, but lies, greed, and desperation can destroy everything.
You know, their first defense in the other trial, I know it's something different, it was a reality TV show, which is ridiculous. Now they want to blame it on the Boynton Beach police, which is ridiculous. I also heard that I'm a physical abuser, which I've never done. Point being, though, I just feel they could have did a lot more in the case that they didn't do.
This is the story.
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you pleading guilty because you aren't guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Mask, would you be kind enough to elicit a factual basis?
You've bloodied and stained the medical profession. A grieving family's accusation pierces the courtroom silence. A nurse who murdered dozens, a neonatal caregiver who preyed on fragile infants, and an anesthesiologist whose tampering killed a colleague. These are the chilling true crime stories of Charles Cullen, Lucy Letby, and Reinaldo Rivera Ortiz. Trusted to heal, they instead brought death, shattering lives and betraying the sacred oath of medicine. From a 16-year killing spree across hospitals to a neonatal unit turned nightmare, these cases expose the darkest corners of human betrayal. What drives a healer to kill? Can justice mend the wounds left behind? Join us as we unravel the pain, loss, and search for answers in this haunting documentary. Charles Cullen, the Angel of Death. You are a coward. A victim's sister demands answers. What drove a nurse to murder dozens? We begin in Somerset County, New Jersey, in 2003, where Charles Cullen, a 43-year-old registered nurse, stood in court, his head bowed, as families of his victims unleashed their grief. Cullen worked in 9 hospitals across New Jersey and Pennsylvania, leaving a trail of death. Known as the Angel of Death, he injected patients with lethal doses of drugs like digoxin, insulin, and lidocaine, targeting the vulnerable, elderly patients like 60-year-old Eleanor Stucker, recovering from asthma, and college student Michael Stranko, 21, post-spleen surgery. Cullen's spree ended at Somerset Medical Center, where suspicious deaths in 2003 triggered an investigation. He was arrested on December 12, 2003, charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. NJ Stat. Section 2, C11-3. In police interviews, he confessed to 40 murders, though only 29 were confirmed, with estimates suggesting up to 100 victims. I tried to kill myself throughout my life because I never really liked being who I was, Cullen admitted. Transcript 00:04:01.159. His motive? A twisted need to control life and death, finding solace in ending suffering, or so he claimed. At his plea hearing on April 29, 2004, before Judge Paul W. Armstrong in Somerset County Superior Court.
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you pleading guilty because you aren't guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Mask, would you be kind enough to elicit a factual basis?
Cullen pleaded guilty to 13 murders and 2 attempted murders in New Jersey, and later to 16 more in Pennsylvania. Families confronted him. "My heart aches for my son," said one mother, clutching a photo of Michael Stranko in his coffin. 00545.680. "You looked us in the eye and said he was gravely ill knowing you caused it," another cried, recalling Cullen's cold waiting room visits to gauge their pain. 00:05:51.960. He refused eye contact, prompting. On March 2, 2006, Judge Armstrong sentenced Cullen to 11 consecutive life sentences, approximately 397 years without parole. NJ Stat. Section 2, C43-7. You've ruined the lives of your family, your children, and stained the medical profession, the judge declared. 00:04:, now 65, Cullen serves at New Jersey State Prison, ineligible for parole until 2043. The case, covered by the New York Times and the Morning Call, led to New Jersey's 2004 patient safety laws, with hospital mortality audits rising 20% by 2010, NJDOH data. Families like Stranko's hold vigils, their grief a permanent scar of Cullen's betrayal.
Yeah. Hello, my name's Chester, please. Okay, step in 2 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Not a problem.
Lucy Letby, the neonatal nightmare. You murdered 7 fragile babies, some only a day old. A judge's voice trembles with fury. What turned a neonatal nurse into a child killer? We travel to Chester, England in 2016, where Lucy Letby, a 26-year-old neonatal nurse at the Countess of Chester Hospital, became the UK's most prolific infant serial killer. Between June 2015 and June 2016, she murdered 7 babies and attempted to murder 6 others, targeting the most vulnerable in the neonatal intensive care unit, NICU. Letby injected infants with insulin, air, or milk into their bloodstreams, causing catastrophic collapses. The horror unfolded when doctors noticed an unusual spike in infant deaths during Letby's shifts. 17 deaths in 2015 to 2016. 1 baby, injected with insulin, survived but suffered brain damage. 00705.919. Letby kept trophies, baby items with victims' initials, and chilling diary entries. "I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them," one read, per BBC reports. A nurse recalled Letby staring coldly as alarms blared during a collapse. 00:07:32.840. Arrested on July 3, 2018, Letby denied everything. "They told me there'd been a lot more deaths, and I've been linked," she said, feigning shock. 00:08:18.000. Charged with 7 counts of murder and 7 of attempted murder, UK Murder Act 1965. Her trial began October 10, 2022, at Manchester Crown Court, before Mr. Justice James Goss. Evidence was damning: handwritten notes, staffing rosters tying her to every death, and her calm demeanor as babies died. "It's another layer of surprise as to the depths Lucy Letby went to," a doctor testified. On August 18, 2023, the jury convicted her on all counts. At sentencing on August 21, 2023, parents wept. "You took our babies' futures. First steps, first words," one said, per The Guardian. "You are now to be sentenced for your crimes, Lucy Letby," Justice Goss declared. 00:08:41.760. She received 14 whole life orders, a rare sentence ensuring lifelong imprisonment. Now 35, Letby serves at HMP Low Newton. The case, reported by BBC and The Times, led to a 2024 UK inquiry into hospital oversight, with NICU protocols tightened. The infants' names remain private, their families forever broken. We conclude in Dallas, Texas in 2022, where Reynaldo Rivera Ortiz Jr., a 59-year-old anesthesiologist at Baylor Scott and White Surgicare North Dallas, turned routine procedures deadly. From May to August 2022, Ortiz injected IV bags with bupivacaine, lidocaine, and epinephrine, causing cardiac emergencies in 11 patients. 1. Dr. Melanie Casper, 55, died after using a tampered IV to treat her dehydration at home on June 21, 2022. Security footage captured Ortiz's methodical betrayal. Exiting an operating room, glancing around, and placing a tampered IV bag in a warmer, 00:10:19.240. Suspicion grew after Casper's death, with autopsies revealing bupivacaine poisoning. Ortiz was arrested on September 14, 2022, charged with tampering with a consumer product resulting in death and intentional drug adulteration. 18 U.S.C. Section 1365. At his trial in April 2024 before Judge Yumi K. Lee in Dallas Federal Court, prosecutors revealed Ortiz's motive: revenge against colleagues after a 2018 malpractice incident threatened his license. He wanted to prove others were incompetent, Assistant U.S. Attorney John de la Garza argued, per AP. Ortiz's defense claimed no direct evidence linked him to the drugs, but footage and syringe residue were damning. On April 12, 2024, the jury convicted him on all counts. At sentencing, Casper's husband wept. "She was my partner, my light. You took her for nothing, Ortiz." Expressionless, received 190 years, 2,280 months, without parole. 00:11:02.600. Prompted Baylor to install cameras in all surgical suites, with Texas hospital tampering incidents dropping 15% by 2025. Casper's family created a scholarship in her name, but her loss haunts Dallas's medical community. Charles Cullen, Lucy Letby, and Reynaldo Rivera Ortiz, nurses and doctors meant to save lives, yet they chose to end them. From Cullen's 40 confessed murders across decades, to Letby's slaughter of 7 infants in a year, these cases reveal a chilling truth. The deepest betrayal comes from those we trust most. Can justice heal such wounds? How do we rebuild trust in medicine? If you or someone needs help, call 988, Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or 1-800-799-7233, National Domestic Violence Hotline. Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more true crime stories, and join us as we seek answers in the face of unimaginable loss. Turn off the car for me, please. A trooper's urgent command echoes through the body cam footage as a desperate plea for help turns into a fatal confrontation. In Saratoga County, New York, a family's call for a wellness check spirals into tragedy, claiming the life of a beloved father and community pillar. This is the story of James DeLea, known as Jimbo to those who cherished him, and a heartbreaking reminder of what happens when mental health crises collide with law enforcement. It's September 11th, 2024, a day that begins with quiet concern in the small town of Hillsdale, New York. James DeLea, a 50-year-old man with a heart as big as his nickname suggests, has been battling inner demons. To the world, Jimbo was the guy who'd buy coffee for the stranger behind him in line, the trusted mechanic who even the local police let tinker with their cruisers, the racing enthusiast who lit up tracks with his kids and grandkids. You can't walk in there without somebody grabbing you for a hug or telling you how sorry they are because they miss my dad, his daughter recalls, her voice thick with emotion. But beneath that warmth, James was grieving profoundly. He'd lost 5 close family members in recent years, and the weight of everyday depression had become overwhelming. On this fateful day, thoughts of self-harm consume him. His family, frantic and unable to locate him, makes the call they hope will save him. 911 for a wellness check. James's wife, Melissa, stays on the line with dispatchers for over an hour, her voice steady but laced with fear. She walks them through the texts James sent. Raw messages revealing he has a rifle in his car but insisting, "I would never put anyone else in danger." It's a cry for help, clear as day, emphasizing that this is a man in crisis, not a threat. The family trusts the system to respond with care, to get him the support he needs. But as the afternoon unfolds, everything goes south. The first contact comes at Malta Speedway, where James has pulled over. Bodycam footage captures the tense initial exchange. Troopers approach his vehicle, their commands sharp. "Can I turn off the car for me, please?"
How's it going, sir? Good. Can you turn off the car for me? Please?
"I need you to step out," James, overwhelmed, drives away, his actions born of panic rather than aggression. The pursuit is brief but intense, leading him to the parking lot of Bethel, Saratoga, a quiet commercial spot that becomes the stage for unimaginable chaos. There, James stops. 3 New York State police officers surround his car, 2 in uniform, 1 off duty. The body cams roll, showing a scene straight out of a nightmare. Officers shout commands, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of urgency. "Get out of the car! Hands where we can see them!" But amid the yelling, there's no pause, no moment to breathe, no attempt to connect with the man they know is in distress.
Sir, get out of the car right now! Get out of the car! Get out of the car right now! Get out of the car!
Nobody took a minute to talk to him. Not 1 minute, Melissa later laments. Less than 3 minutes into the encounter, the situation erupts. Surrounded and cornered, James grabs his rifle, not to fire, but in desperation. He smashes the passenger side window with the butt of the weapon, shards of glass scattering like his fraying hope. In that split second, an off-duty trooper, Brian Randolph of Troop G, opens fire. Bullets tear through the vehicle, striking James. The family insists the protocol was shattered. There was no need to rush, they say, devastated by the footage. He was an off-duty officer that chose to put himself in that position and put his other coworkers in harm's way by shooting in their direction. Randolph didn't just endanger James. He risked his colleagues, too. The shots ring out, and in an instant, a wellness check becomes a death sentence. James slumps, his life ebbing away in the front seat of his car. As the gunfire fades, confusion reigns at the scene. The family, miles away and clinging to hope, receives fragmented updates. They're told James is in custody, en route to a hospital for help. "We called hospitals trying to find him," Melissa recounts, her words breaking. Around 6:50 p.m., a family friend delivers the crushing blow. James is gone. "They took our whole world away from us, and they don't even realize what they've taken," his daughter sobs. "My dad taught us a lot of things, but he did not teach us how to live without him. So that's something that we're all struggling with."
They took our whole world away from us, and they don't even realize what they've taken, and they don't care enough.
The aftermath is a torrent of grief and outrage. In Hillsdale, the tight-knit community rallies around the DeLea family. Mourners fill the streets, sharing stories of Jimbo's kindness, the man who made everyone feel special, who turned a 2-year-old granddaughter's pretend phone call into a poignant echo of loss. "Who are you on the phone with?" "My papa." Vigils light up the night, but so do signs demanding justice. The family disputes the investigators' claim that James was holding a gun when officers arrived. He was on the phone with his boss, they insist, just moments before the window shattered. Trooper Randolph, placed on voluntary paid leave after the shooting, has since returned to duty, a fact that fuels the family's fury. What if he does this to somebody else, they ask, calling for full accountability. The New York Attorney General's Office of Special Investigation, OSI, is probing the incident, reviewing the released Bodycam videos that lay bare the rapid escalation. But for the Delias, the lack of transparency only deepens the wound. "Devastated, absolutely devastated," Melissa says of watching the footage. "They treat it like a criminal takedown, not the wellness check it was meant to be." James Delia's story is a gut-wrenching chapter in America's ongoing struggle with mental health and policing. A man who shared his joy of racing, who built a legacy of love, sought help through the very system designed to protect him, only to meet a hail of bullets. His family's plea cuts deep. "We called for help, not for this." It echoes the cries of countless others, urging reform. More training in crisis intervention, specialized response teams for mental health calls, and protocols that prioritize dialogue over force. This tragedy isn't just about one afternoon in Saratoga County. It's a call to examine how we bridge the gap between desperation and danger. How do we ensure a wellness check truly brings wellness? How do we honor men like Jimbo, who deserved compassion, not commands? The investigation continues, but the conversation must too. If you or someone you know is struggling, reach out. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there, free and confidential. Share your thoughts below, and join us as we uncover stories that demand change. Thank you for listening. "You don't have to do this!" A daughter's desperate cries echo as her mother's life is stolen, a son's rage erupts against a serial killer, and two brothers unleash a brutal courtroom attack to avenge their mother. These are not scenes from a scripted drama, but real-life courtroom confrontations, driven by unbearable loss and raw human pain. This documentary delves into the heart-wrenching true crime stories of Dale Williams, Vashon Flowers, and Alfred Gaynor, where the grief of victims' families collides with justice in explosive chaos. From a mother's brutal murder in Ohio sparking a son's vengeance, to a domestic killing in Michigan igniting a son's desperate charge, to a serial killer's reckoning in Massachusetts facing a grieving son's fury, these cases lay bare the devastating toll of loss. What drives families to confront killers in the sanctity of a courtroom? Can justice ever soothe their shattered hearts? Join us as we unravel these stories of sorrow, rage, and the search for closure. Dale Williams, a mother's murder and son's revenge. They beat him like he deserved it. Two sons leap across a courtroom to deliver their own justice. What drove their rage to boil over? Our journey begins in Youngstown, Ohio, on June 2, 2017, where Dale Williams, a 62-year-old man with a history of domestic disputes, committed an unthinkable act. In a fit of rage after a bitter breakup, Williams ran his ex-girlfriend, Elizabeth Pledger Stewart, off Market Street in a calculated act of violence. The 46-year-old mother of two, a beloved nurse known for her warmth, was trapped in her wrecked car when Williams approached and fired multiple shots, killing her instantly. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station and witness testimonies led to his arrest within hours, charged with aggravated murder and unlawful use of a weapon. Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.01, Section 2923.13. At his sentencing on June 27, 2017, in Mahoning County Common Pleas Court. Before Judge Maureen Sweeney, the courtroom was thick with tension. Pledger Stewart's sons, Anthony Dees, 30, and Jerome Stewart, 23, sat in the gallery, their faces etched with grief for their mother, who had raised them single-handedly through hardship. Williams, shackled and expressionless, pleaded guilty, hoping to avoid a trial. As Judge Sweeney read the sentence, 23 years to life, the brothers' pain erupted into action. Security footage, aired by WKBN News, captured Anthony vaulting over the defense table, grabbing Williams by his feet and dragging him to the floor. Jerome joined, landing a barrage of punches and kicks as Williams curled up, defenseless. "You took our mom!" Anthony shouted, according to the Vindicator. Deputies struggled to intervene, one deploying a taser to subdue the brothers, who were pulled away, faces streaked with tears and rage. Williams, bloodied but not seriously injured, wiped his face as he was escorted out, later sentenced to life with parole eligibility after 23 years. Now 70, he serves at Lorain Correctional Institution, a shadow of the man who destroyed a family. Anthony and Jerome face charges of assault, contempt of court, and obstruction of justice. Ohio Revised Code, Section 2903.13, Section 2705.02, receiving 6 months probation after pleading guilty. The case, covered extensively by WFMJ News, highlighted Ohio's 10% rise in domestic violence homicides from 2015 to 2019, Ohio BCI data. Pledger Stewart's sister, speaking to Youngstown News, described Elizabeth as a light that held us together. The brothers' attack, while unlawful, reflected a visceral need for justice, leaving Youngstown to wrestle with the ripple effects of domestic violence and courtroom chaos. The community held a vigil for Elizabeth, raising $5,000 for her grandchildren's education. But her absence remains a wound that time struggles to heal. Vashon Flowers, a wife's murder. Sparks a son's fury. "Please don't do this." A daughter's cries couldn't save her mother.
"You don't have to do this, Vashon. Please don't do this. You don't have to do this."
Now her brother seeks vengeance in court. We moved to Muskegon Heights, Michigan, on January 23, 2019, where Vashon Flowers, a 46-year-old factory worker with a history of domestic issues, turned a petty argument into a tragedy. Flowers and his wife, Jaime Flowers, 42, clashed over cigarettes, a dispute that escalated over a day of heated exchanges. Police responded to a domestic call, separating the couple. But Flowers, consumed by anger, returned hours later. Kicking in the door of their home on Reynolds Street, he found Jaime in their bedroom. In front of their 17-year-old daughter, Paris, Flowers choked Jaime, ignoring her pleas. "You don't have to do this," before firing 4 shots from a .38 revolver, killing her instantly. Paris, trembling, testified, "I saw blood on her shirt, bullet holes."
Yes, on her shirt. Gunshots, bullet holes in her shirt. And
Flowers surrendered to Muskegon Heights Police, charged with open murder, Michigan, Commerce Laws Section 750.316. At a pretrial hearing on May 15, 2019, in Muskegon County Circuit Court before Judge Timothy Hicks, The courtroom was a powder keg. Paris's testimony, replayed via MLIVE, described the horror. He was choking her. I heard 4 gunshots. Jaime's son, London Jones, 21, sat with his siblings in the gallery, clutching a photo of his mother, a devoted caregiver who loved gospel music. As Paris recounted the murder, London's grief turned to rage. He leaped over the barricade, charging at Flowers with clenched fists, shouting, "You killed her!" Deputies tackled him just feet from the defendant, restraining him as he sobbed. The incident, captured on court cameras and reported by WZZM News, led to London's removal, though prosecutors declined to charge him, citing his emotional turmoil. On July 10, 2019, Flowers was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. Now 52, he resides at Ionia Correctional Facility, isolated from the family he shattered. Paris, speaking to Fox 17, said, "She was my best friend. He took our future." Jaime's siblings launched a local domestic violence awareness campaign, noting Michigan's 14% increase in domestic fatalities from 2017 to 2021, Michigan State Police data. The courtroom outburst, while fleeting, exposed the raw anguish of children forced to face their mother's killer, leaving Muskegon Heights to confront the scourge of domestic violence that claims over 40 lives annually in the state. Alfred Gaynor, the serial killer's courtroom. Reckoning, he took my mother's life. A son's fury explodes against a serial killer. What toll does a monster's reign exact? We conclude in Springfield, Massachusetts, where Alfred Gaynor, a 31-year-old drifter, unleashed a reign of terror from 1995 to 1998. Gaynor, a drug addict with a prior robbery conviction, sexually assaulted and murdered 9 women, targeting vulnerable victims in Springfield's low-income neighborhoods. Among them was Vera Hallams, 44, a mother of 4 and church volunteer, found strangled in her apartment in October 1997. DNA evidence, collected from cigarette butts and clothing, linked Gaynor to Hallams' murder in April 1998, later tying him to 8 other killings through forensic analysis. Charged with 9 counts of first-degree murder, Massachusetts, General Laws, Chapter 2, 165, Section 1. Gaynor's hearing on April 15, 1998, in Hampton County Superior Court, before Judge Constance Sweeney, was fraught with emotion. Vera Hallams' son, Eric Downs, 24, sat in the gallery, his mother's memory fueling his anger. As Gaynor's attorney argued for bail, citing extreme confinement conditions, Downs could take no more. He vaulted over the barricade, landing a single, powerful punch to Gaynor's face before deputies intervened. Gaynor's sister tried to shield him, screaming, but Downs' rage echoed Vera's stolen life. Officers restrained Downs, who faced charges of assault and contempt of court, Massachusetts. General Laws, Chapter 2. 168, Section 13b, later receiving 6 months probation. Gaynor pleaded guilty to all 9 murders in November 1998, accepting 8 consecutive life sentences without parole. Now 58, he remains at Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center, a name synonymous with Springfield's darkest chapter. The case, covered by the Springfield Republican and Mass Live, revealed a 20% spike in violent crime in Springfield during the 1990s, FBI UCR data. Vera's daughter, speaking at a memorial, called her a beacon of love who never gave up on anyone. Downs' attack, though brief, embodied the collective grief of a city ravaged by Gaynor's crimes, with over 200 community members attending vigils for the victims. Springfield implemented stricter parole monitoring for repeat offenders post-1998, but the scars of Gaynor's rampage endure. These stories, Dale Williams facing a son's brutal vengeance, Vashon Flowers enduring a son's desperate charge, and Alfred Gaynor confronting a grieving son's fury, lay bare the raw intersection of loss and justice. In the sterile confines of a courtroom, where order is meant to prevail, the pain of losing a loved one can ignite chaos that no gavel can silence. Youngstown, Muskegon, and Springfield bear the weight of these tragedies, where families, driven by unbearable sorrow, sought to reclaim what killers stole. Yet, their actions raise profound questions. Does confronting a killer bring closure, or does it deepen the wounds? Can a courtroom, built on law, contain the chaos of human grief? As we reflect on these cases, we're reminded that justice is not just a verdict, it's a fragile bridge between loss and healing. If you or someone you know is struggling, reach out to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988 or the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more true crime stories, and join us as we continue to explore the human stories behind the headlines. Together, let's honor the victims and seek a path toward healing.
Stop moving! Stop moving! Stop moving! Stop moving!
He's coming out armed, a deputy's voice crackles over the radio, slicing through the quiet of a rural night in Cameron, New York. It's October 21st, 2024, and what begins as a routine welfare check is about to erupt into a deadly standoff that will leave a community grieving, a family shattered, and a nation grappling with hard questions about mental health and law enforcement. This is the story of Alan Hode, a man known to those close to him as Moose, and a tragedy that could have been prevented. At 12:40 a.m., deputies from the Steuben County Sheriff's Department pull up to a modest home on Angel Road. The call came from Hode's own family, concerned for his mental state, hoping for help. They expected compassion, perhaps a conversation to ease their loved one's distress. Instead, they're met with chaos. 50-year-old Alan Hode steps onto his porch, his voice loud and agitated, confronting the officers with raw intensity. The deputies try to calm him, but the situation escalates in an instant. Without warning, Hode raises a shotgun and fires. "Shots fired! Shots fired!" a deputy yells, as pellets rip through the night, striking 2 patrol vehicles. Windshields shatter, metal buckles, and the officers scramble for cover, their hearts pounding as they realize this is no ordinary call. The damaged vehicles force the deputies to retreat, their radios buzzing with urgent chatter. They establish a perimeter around the house, cordoning off Angel Road as the quiet rural neighborhood transforms into a tense standoff zone. The Steuben County SWAT team arrives, their heavy gear clanking in the darkness, joined by crisis negotiators trained to defuse high-stakes encounters. For the next 12 hours, the scene is a pressure cooker. Negotiators take to the loudspeaker, their voices steady but pleading. "Alan, come out peacefully. We don't want anyone to get hurt," they call out, hour after grueling hour. They try every tactic in the book: calm reassurances, appeals to reason, offers of support. But Hode's responses are chilling. He speaks of mass killings, his words dripping with defiance. He vows to leave the house armed and dangerous, leaving no doubt that he's prepared for a violent confrontation. As the standoff stretches into the morning, the community of Cameron holds its collective breath. Neighbors, awakened by the commotion, peer from their windows, watching the flashing lights of police vehicles and the silhouettes of SWAT officers moving in the shadows. The negotiators persist, their voices hoarse but determined, searching for any crack in Hode's resolve. Inside the house, Hode is not just barricaded. He's preparing. He moves deliberately, gathering weapons, his intentions unclear but ominous. The tension builds with every passing minute, a ticking clock that threatens to explode. By 2 p.m., the standoff takes a dramatic turn. Hode emerges, but not to surrender. He's loading rifles and ammunition into his truck, his movements purposeful and urgent. Then, in a bold and desperate act, he jumps into the driver's seat and speeds off. "He's moving! He's moving!" officers shout, their voices crackling over the radio as they scramble to respond. Hode tears through nearby fields, his truck kicking up clouds of dirt and grass, swerving to dodge police roadblocks in a reckless bid for escape. The chase is chaotic, a high-stakes pursuit across the rural landscape, with deputies and SWAT teams struggling to keep up. Hode's flight leads him to another residence, where he attempts to force his way into an occupied home. The occupants, startled but resolute, refuse him entry, and Hode is forced to retreat. He returns to his truck, but the situation is far from resolved. The standoff is hurtling toward a breaking point. In a sudden, aggressive move, Hode throws his truck into reverse, slamming into a patrol vehicle with a deafening crunch. Watch out! Watch out! Officers scream, their voices raw with adrenaline. The collision is the spark that ignites the chaos. Deputies open fire. Fire! Fire! They call out, as the sound of gunfire erupts across the field. Hode is struck, and tragically, one of his dogs, caught in the chaos, is also hit. Stop moving! Stop moving! Hands out! The officers demand, their commands cutting through the pandemonium.
Stop moving! Stop moving! Stop moving! Stop moving!
Amid the gunfire, a voice breaks through on the radio. HK-93, we need an ambulance up here. Gunshot wound. EMS teams race to the scene, their sirens wailing as they navigate the rural roads. Medics leap from their vehicles, working with frantic precision to stabilize Alan Hode. They load him into an ambulance, tires screeching as they rush him to a local hospital. Despite their tireless efforts, the injuries are too severe. Alan Hode, the man known as Moose, succumbs to his wounds, leaving behind a community in shock and a family grappling with unimaginable loss. In the days that follow, the people of Cameron come together to mourn. In a local park, family, friends, and supporters gather, their faces etched with grief. They hold signs that read, "Justice for Moose," and "Steuben County failed us," their voices rising in chants that echo through the trees. They sing heartfelt songs, honoring the man they knew, a man who loved his dogs, who was a fixture in their lives, who was more than the figure in this tragic standoff. They share stories of his kindness, his quirks, his nickname Moose that spoke to his larger-than-life presence. But their gathering is also a protest, a demand for answers. Why did a welfare check, meant to help someone in crisis, end in death? Why was a mental health call met with a militarized response? Hode's family, who made the initial call out of love and concern, is heartbroken. They speak out, their voices trembling with sorrow and resolve. "We called for help, not for this," they say, their words heavy with pain. They question why the situation escalated so quickly, why specialized mental health resources weren't deployed, why the response leaned so heavily on force. They advocate for reforms, calling for law enforcement to adopt compassionate, specialized approaches to mental health crises. They want training that prioritizes de-escalation, teams equipped to handle psychological distress, and a system that sees people like Alan as individuals in need, not threats to be neutralized. The Alan Hode standoff is more than a single tragic night in Cameron, New York. It's a mirror held up to our society, reflecting the deep complexities of addressing mental health in high-stakes encounters. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. How do we balance the need for public safety with the need for empathy? How do we ensure that a call for help doesn't end in a funeral? The voices of Hode's family, chanting "Justice for Moose," carry far beyond their small town, joining a growing movement across the country demanding better training, better resources, and better outcomes for those in crisis. This story isn't over. It's a call to action, a plea to rethink how we respond to those in need. Share your thoughts below, and join us as we continue to explore the stories that shape our world. Thank you for listening.
Count 8. Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy and punishment is set at 20 years. Count 9. Rape in the first degree. Defendant is not guilty of the crime of rape in the first degree.
You're about to witness how the law turns its gaze inward, how the very people sworn to protect and serve found themselves standing before the same justice they once represented. Amber Geiger, Daniel Holtzclaw, Leonard Galley, Jaylene Fleer. Each name tells a story of duty undone, of power twisted until it broke. These are not scenes from a show, they are transcripts of real courtroom moments where silence hit harder than any verdict. It begins not with a weapon or a chase, but with a mistake that shattered trust across a nation. Amber Geiger's case wasn't supposed to exist. An off-duty Dallas police officer, she returned home one night, weary from a long shift. The door she opened felt familiar, the layout nearly identical, but it wasn't her apartment. Inside, 26-year-old Botham Jean sat on his couch eating ice cream. Seconds later, he was gone.
Whenever I shot the first 2 shots where he ended up falling down.
And why did you shoot?
Because I was scared that he was going to come at me and kill me.
That was your reason?
Yes, sir.
Geiger told investigators she believed she was in her own home. The defense clung to that error, framing the shooting as a tragic misperception born from exhaustion. Prosecutors, however, pointed to something deeper. A sense of authority that had dulled her awareness, a belief that instinct justified judgment. Under Texas Penal Code Section 19.02, the jury had to decide whether her fear was reasonable or reckless. The courtroom filled with tension that reached beyond one defendant. Every word, every tear carried echoes of a country divided over policing and accountability. When the verdict came guilty of murder, there were no cheers, only quiet disbelief. Botham Jean's family sat still, their pain silent yet immense. Then came the moment that changed everything. During sentencing, Jean's younger brother Brant asked to speak. He approached Geiger, looked her in the eyes, and offered forgiveness. The courtroom froze as he embraced the woman who had killed his brother. Moments later, the presiding judge stepped down from the bench and handed Geiger a Bible, a human gesture that blurred the line between law and mercy. Outside, some called it grace. Others called it privilege. Inside, it felt like something neither side had words for. The sentence, 10 years, left the nation divided. But one thing was clear. Forgiveness had entered the record, and justice had never felt so complex. But while one courtroom wrestled with redemption, another faced something darker, betrayal carried out in silence and secrecy. Daniel Holtzclaw's name had once meant promise inside the Oklahoma City Police Department. He was young, disciplined, and ambitious, a model officer in every sense. But when the verdict came, the badge that once protected him became evidence against him. The courtroom fell silent as he stood motionless, tears streaming down his face while each guilty echoed through the air. His authority had turned into a weapon. The case centered on forensic details, DNA recovered from inside Holtzclaw's patrol car, and on the stories of multiple women, none of whom knew each other yet. Each described the same pattern of manipulation. The defense argued contamination error, even conspiracy. But prosecutors painted a pattern too consistent to ignore. Each account mirrored the next authority used to intimidate, control, and silence. As jurors delivered their verdicts, emotion overtook the room. Some victims wept quietly, others clasped hands in disbelief. Uniformed officers sat still, faces pale as they watched one of their own condemned reports later revealed controversy. Recanted testimony questions over a closed hearing. Whispers about procedure, but none of it reversed the outcome. The damage was permanent, both to Holtzclaw's name and to public faith in the badge itself. His sentence, 263 years in prison, was less a punishment than a symbol, proof that even authority must answer to the truth. And yet the next betrayal wasn't one of physical control, but digital deceit. A case where the badge became a disguise for something far more insidious. Jaylene Fleer was just 27, a deputy in San Diego County. On paper, his life was steady: husband, athlete, youth coach. His reputation in the community was spotless. But behind the screen, under hidden usernames, he lived another life. He used Snapchat to reach out to underage girls, messages that vanished within seconds, conversations carefully crafted to manipulate trust. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received a tip that sparked an investigation. Cybercrime detectives traced his online activity, matched his usernames to his county-issued phone, and uncovered thousands of exchanges that revealed calculated grooming. California Penal Code sections 288.2 and 288.3 prohibit the distribution of harmful material and unlawful contact with minors, laws designed to stop exactly what Fleer was doing. At one point, he faced 44 felony counts. Eventually, he pleaded guilty to 20, including multiple acts involving girls as young as 12. When the sentence was read, 12 years and 8 months in prison, there were no cheers, no gasps, only quiet devastation. The very man who was supposed to protect their children had used his badge to reach them. Instead, Fleer's case became a warning about the digital age, how easily trust can be exploited, and how technology can both conceal and reveal the truth. The same devices that helped him hide became the evidence that ended his career and freedom. But not every exposure began with police work or surveillance warrants. Sometimes it was the internet itself that set the trap. Leonard Galley, known to some by his online alias, was a retired officer and defensive tactics instructor in Pennsylvania. He had spent years teaching recruits restraint control and ethics, yet one evening those lessons vanished the moment he met the wrong person. The man waiting for him wasn't a minor. It was Musa Harris, a content creator who ran a channel called LC Predator Catcher, posing online as a 15-year-old boy to expose adults seeking illegal encounters. When Galley arrived at the meeting spot, cameras were already rolling. The confrontation unfolded, live-streamed for the world to see. Galley tried to deny, deflect, and discredit, but his own words betrayed him. Viewers would later watch the footage in disbelief, as a former officer once tasked with protection fell into the same traps he had once warned others about. The evidence, chat logs, timestamps, and the recorded conversation was irrefutable. Prosecutors charged him under Pennsylvania statutes, covering unlawful contact with a minor and criminal attempt. Both felonies faced with the undeniable proof, Galley pleaded guilty. The courtroom that followed was subdued, almost mechanical. 1 to 2 years in prison, 5 years probation, and lifetime registration, as a Tier 3 offender. No cameras, no interviews, just paperwork and silence. A man who once lectured others about responsibility now stood as its cautionary tale. Each of these cases revealed a different face of the same failure. When those who wear the badge forget the weight it carries, Geiger's case exposed the danger of instinct unchecked. Holtzclaw's shattered trust from within Fleer's revealed the weaponization of technology. And Galley's reminded the world that arrogance is its own downfall. Justice in these courtrooms was not an idea, it was an autopsy of trust. Each verdict dissected the boundary between authority and accountability, showing that the uniform does not shield one from consequence. And when the gavel falls, it does not echo differently. For those in uniform, it echoes louder. So tell me, what does justice mean when it must police itself?
I didn't mean to kill Austin. Ashley, I really didn't. You really think I did that? I didn't mean to hurt him.
We got in, and then I looked to Nate and nodded and shook my head as in yes or no. He nodded, and then I took the first swing.
Basically, the main reason for accepting the offer was to avoid the absolute certainty of life without parole.
Teens' twisted confessions shock court. A toddler's cries silenced by fists. A grandmother slaughtered for pizza money. A child buried in a shallow grave. These aren't horror movie plots. They're the real crimes of teenagers turned monsters. Courtrooms expect remorse. But what happens when young killers weep crocodile tears, smirk, or stay stone cold? Today, we plunge into 3 gut-wrenching cases. Dylan Shoemaker, Antonio Barbeau, and Nathan Pape, and Alyssa Bustamante, where teens faced life sentences for heinous murders, their reactions ranging from fake sobs to chilling indifference. These stories expose the terrifying truth. Evil can wear a young face, and justice struggles to contain it.
I can't take back what was done. I wish I could. I would give my life for Austin. I loved him a lot.
Austin Smith was completely defenseless.
Dylan Shoemaker, March 19, 2013, Springville, New York. Dylan Shoemaker, just 16, was left to babysit his girlfriend Ashley Smith's 23-month-old son, Austin. When Austin's cries wouldn't stop, Shoemaker breached all humanity, unleashing a torrent of violence. He backhanded the toddler's face, slammed his head on the floor during a diaper change, and smothered him with a pillow, punching his tiny head repeatedly. The medical examiner detailed horrific injuries: ruptured blood vessels in Austin's ear, retinal hemorrhages, and subdural bleeding. Austin died, his small body a map of brutality. Education warns that unchecked anger in young caregivers can escalate to deadly abuse. Training and oversight for teen babysitters could prevent such tragedies. In Erie County Court, Shoemaker played the victim, sobbing, "I didn't mean to kill Austin. You really think I did this?" I didn't mean to hurt him. He apologized to Ashley, claiming remorse, but a jail call to his mother exposed his manipulation. "I'm a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they'll feel sorry for me. Laws under New York's second-degree murder statute, Penal Law Section 125.25, mandated 15 years to life for intentional killing, with judges weighing intent and age. Justice M. William Baller saw through the act, labeling Shoemaker a manipulator and deceiver who knew right from wrong. The consequence was 25 years to life. As the sentence landed, Shoemaker's tears flowed, but Ashley's anguished wails echoed louder, her son's life stolen by a teen's rage. The courtroom became a stage for his failed deception, Austin's death a wound that justice couldn't heal. Antonio Barbeau and Nathan Pepe.
We got in, and then I looked to Nate and nodded.
I don't do what Antonio says that he might try something on me.
September 2012, Sheboygan County, Wisconsin. Antonio Barbeau, 14, and Nathan Pepe, 14, hatched a chilling plan to murder Barbeau's 78-year-old great-grandmother Barbara Olson for $155 to buy pizza and weed. They hid a hatchet and hammer in their pants, got a ride to her Sheboygan Falls home, and ambushed her. Barbeau struck first, swinging the hatchet, while Pape bludgeoned her with the hammer. Barbeau later confessed, "I took the first swing. I hit one more time as she was falling." Education reveals that thrill-seeking and greed in troubled teens can fuel senseless violence. Early intervention through counseling could stop such plots. Surveillance footage captured the boys eating pizza hours later, casually buying gloves and wipes as if no life was taken. Tried as adults in Sheboygan County Circuit Court, both entered no contest pleas to first-degree intentional homicide under Wisconsin's Section 940.01. Laws treated their premeditated act as an adult crime, mandating life sentences with parole eligibility after decades. At sentencing, Barbeau struggled. "I don't show my emotions much, but that doesn't mean I don't feel them." His lawyer completed his statement. "I took away someone's mother, grandma, sister, friend." Judy, Olson's granddaughter, found her body in the garage, her 911 call frantic.
Please send an ambulance and the police. My mother is laying in the garage and there's a lot of blood and there's a blanket over her head. There's a lot of blood. How did the towel...
There's a lot of blood. Judge Fred Hazel delivered the consequence. Life with parole at 50 for Barbeau, 45 for Pop. Barbeau sobbed as he was led away. Pape showed no emotion. The courtroom recoiled at their greed. Olson's death a stark reminder that youth can mask monstrous intent. Alyssa Bustamante.
Cut throat. She died.
October 2009, Jefferson City, Missouri. Alyssa Bustamante, 15, lured 9-year-old Elizabeth Olton, a neighbor, to a wooded area under the pretense of playing. Instead, she breached innocence, slitting Olton's throat, stabbing her repeatedly, and burying her in a shallow grave behind her house. A diary entry, revealed under UV light, exposed her chilling mindset. "I became obsessed. I just fucking killed her." Education stresses that untreated mental health issues, like Bustamante's history of depression and self-harm, can spiral into violence. Early therapy could save lives. Elizabeth's parents, frantic after she vanished, filed a missing persons report, only for police to trace her phone to the woods. Tried as an adult in Cole County Circuit Court, Bustamante pleaded guilty to second-degree murder under Missouri's Section 565.021 to avoid the death penalty. Laws allowed adult prosecution due to the crime's brutality, with a plea deal setting a minimum sentence. Her defense cited her troubled background, but the prosecution highlighted her euphoria in killing. Judge Pat Joyce sentenced her to life with parole after 30 years, plus 30 years consecutive, the consequence for her cold calculation. Bustamante stood emotionless as the sentence was read, her diary's words haunting the courtroom. Elizabeth's mother's sobs filled the silence, her daughter's playful spirit extinguished by a teen's dark obsession. 3 teens, 3 courtrooms, 3 life sentences, yet the shadow of their youth darkens justice's weight. Dylan Shoemaker's manipulative tears, Antonio Barbeau and Nathan Pape's pizza-fueled murder, and Alyssa Bustamante's diary of death reveal evil's chilling presence in the young. Courtrooms become arenas where families' grief clashes with killers' facades. Laws draw a hard line, but they can't erase the pain of a stolen child, grandmother, or future. Sentences lock away these teens, but the scars they leave pulse with eternal loss. Want more shocking true crime stories like these? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay locked in for every chilling case. Drop a comment below. Should teens like these ever get parole? Join our community for weekly dives into the darkest trials.
I just want to say that I am appalled and disgusted by what I've done.
A couple buries a child in their backyard. Another guns down strangers in a twisted crusade. A third dumps a teen in a shallow grave. These aren't horror tales, but real crimes of couples whose love turned lethal. When partners in murder face the gavel, their tears, defiance, and final kisses ignite courtrooms, leaving families shattered and judges shaken. Today, we unravel 3 gut-wrenching cases: Larissa and Christopher Rodriguez, Jeremy and Christine Moody, and Dia and Eric Millerberg, where killer couples' actions and words expose the chilling bond between devotion and destruction. These stories dig into the darkness where love meets evil, testing justice's power to heal.
And it's very hard. And I think you should be recognized more for the difficulty of what you do.
In September 2017, in Cleveland, Ohio, Larissa Rodriguez and her boyfriend, Christopher Rodriguez, breached the sacred trust of parenthood. Larissa's 5-year-old son, Jordan, who had special needs, arrived home unconscious after Christopher's brutal discipline. Instead of calling 911, Larissa gave him a cold shower and put him to bed. The next morning, September 22, 2017, Jordan was dead from blunt force trauma, his body bearing marks of prolonged abuse. Education stresses that child abuse often masquerades as discipline. Training caregivers to recognize signs like bruising or withdrawal could save lives. Rather than seek help, the couple wrapped Jordan's body in blankets and garbage bags, sprinkled mothballs to mask the smell, and buried him in their backyard, hoping to erase their crime. For nearly 2 months, they lied, with Larissa telling police Jordan was in Texas with his father. A tip from Christopher's brother in November 2017 exposed the truth, leading police to unearth Jordan's body. Laws under Ohio's revised code for involuntary manslaughter, ORC Section 2903.04, felonious assault, ORC Section 2903.11, child endangerment, ORC Section 2919.22, and abuse of a corpse, ORC Section 2927.01, carried heavy penalties. In Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court, both entered a plea deal, pleading guilty to these charges to avoid murder trials. On February 25, 2019, Judge Nancy Margaret Russo, visibly shaken, rejected the recommended 20 to 25 years. "This is one of the worst things I've seen in 22 years. You had every chance to get help." She sentenced Larissa to 25 years and Christopher to 28 years, consecutive, the consequence for their callousness. At sentencing, Larissa sobbed, "I'm not a monster," while Christopher stayed silent. Their final kiss before separation felt hollow against Jordan's family's wails. His siblings and grandmother mourning a boy whose life was stolen. The courtroom, heavy with Russo's rare tears, became a monument to a child's betrayal.
I think Jeremy and I would have done it again if given the opportunity.
Do you have any regrets?
I have no regrets. Killing that pedophile was the best day of my life.
On July 21, 2013, in Greenville, South Carolina, Jeremy and Christine Moody, a married couple steeped in neo-Nazi ideology, breached humanity's moral core. They targeted Charles Parker, 59, and his wife Gretchen, 51, after finding Charles on a sex offender registry. Driven by a warped belief that God demanded they cleanse society of pedophiles, they stormed the Parkers' home, shooting Charles in the head and Gretchen in the chest, killing them instantly. Education warns that extremist ideologies can fuel vigilante violence. Community programs and de-radicalization efforts could counter such radicalization. Surveillance footage and Jeremy's tattoos, skinhead across his neck, white power on his scalp, led police to their doorstep within days. In 2015, At their trial in Greenville County Circuit Court, the Moody's confessed, admitting they planned to kill more sex offenders. Laws under South Carolina's first-degree murder statute, SC Code Section 16-3-10, mandated life without parole for premeditated murder. They pleaded for mercy, citing repentance. "I know what I've done is a sin. God has forgiven me. Please let us grow together." Judge C. Victor Pyle Jr. was unmoved. If these two got out, they'd do it again. He sentenced both to life without parole, the consequence. Their courtroom remorse dissolved outside, where Christine declared, "That pedophile was the best day of my life." And Jeremy cursed the victim's family. May they die too. Their final kiss before separation mocked the Parkers' memory, whose daughter's sobs filled the courtroom. The scene, charged with hate and grief, underscored Justice's struggle against ideological evil.
I just want to say that I'm appalled and disgusted by what I've done.
On September 11, 2011, in Ogden, Utah, Dia and Eric Millerberg, a couple with a history of drug abuse, breached trust in the worst way. During a night of alcohol and drugs, they engaged in sexual activity with their 16-year-old babysitter, Alexis Rasmussen. Eric injected her with a lethal mix of heroin and methamphetamine, her third dose that night, leading to her overdose and death. Fearing Eric's return to prison due to his criminal record, they buried Alexis in a shallow grave in Morgan County. Education emphasizes that addiction can cloud judgment, leading to fatal mistakes. Access to treatment and oversight for at-risk households could prevent such tragedies. A tip from a confidential informant in October 2011 led police to Alexis's body. Under Utah's manslaughter statute, Utah Code Section 76-5-205. Obstruction of justice, Utah Code Section 76-8-306. And desecration of a body, Utah Code Section 76-9-704. Carried prison terms. Eric was sentenced to 6 years in 2014 after a trial. Dia, striking a plea deal to testify against him, faced sentencing in Weber County Court in 2014. She wept, "I'm appalled and disgusted by what I've done. I pray for forgiveness." Judge Brent West, acknowledging the case's gravity, sentenced her to 3 concurrent terms of 0 to 5 years, totaling 4 years and 2 months. Prison is appropriate. You can't fix this. Alexis's mother, Dawn Mira, cried out in court, her pain raw, "She was my baby." Dia's sobs and the family's grief turned the courtroom into a somber reflection of a life lost to recklessness. Larissa and Christopher Rodriguez's hidden grave, Jeremy and Christine Moody's hateful crusade, Dia and Eric Millerberg's deadly cover-up. These couples wove love into acts of unthinkable horror, their courtroom pleas and kisses of final defiance against justice. From a child's backyard tomb in Ohio to a neo-Nazi slaughter in South Carolina and a teen's shallow grave in Utah, their crimes tore through families like a storm. Judges, bound by law, delivered sentences, 28 years, life without parole, years in prison. But the wounds of Jordan, the Parkers, and Alexis bleed on. What binds couples to murder together? Can justice mend what love destroys? Subscribe and hit the bell for more chilling true crime tales. Comment below.
Caroline's murder in May shocked Greece. Her husband describing a violent gang who he said had tied up the parents, threatened their baby child, and then killed his wife.
Imagine waking up to find a husband mourning his wife, only to later learn he was the one who took her life. This is the story of Caroline Crouch, a young mother whose murder shocked Greece and the world, not just because of the brutality of the crime, but because of the elaborate lies that followed. The night that changed everything. It was the early hours of May 11th, 2021, inside a quiet suburban home in Glyka Nera, Athens. Carolyn, just 20 years old, lived there with her husband, Babis Anagnostopoulos, a 33-year-old helicopter pilot, and their 11-month-old baby girl. Around 6 a.m., Babis made a frantic call to police, claiming their home had been invaded by armed robbers.
Τι ζητάτε?
Να μην γίνει σε κανέναν άλλον ποτέ ξανά. Τίποτα άλλο. Τα παιδιά ξέρουν τη δουλειά τους, θα τους πιάσουν και αυτό που πέρασα εγώ και η οικογένειά μου και η οικογένεια της γυναίκας μου να μην το περάσει ξανά κανείς ποτέ. Τους παρακαλέσαμε, τους είπαμε ότι πού θα βρουν τα χρήματα.
When officers arrived, they were met with a chilling scene. Caroline was found dead upstairs, suffocated in the attic bedroom. Babys was tied up near the living room, seemingly injured and traumatized. And outside the house, the family's dog had been found hanged.
Μας έδεσαν και από εκείνο το σημείο και μετά δεν τους είχαμε πει ήδη που είναι τα χρήματα.
The story instantly became national news. A horrifying home invasion, a mother killed while protecting her baby, and a grieving husband who appeared shattered by the loss.
This is Babis Ananiastopoulos, comforting his mother-in-law this week. Her daughter, his wife, murdered just a few weeks before.
But as investigators dug deeper, something about Babi's story didn't add up, and soon the entire robbery narrative would begin to crumble. The robbery story starts falling apart. Police initially treated the case as a violent burglary, but inconsistencies started to appear almost immediately. There was no sign of forced entry on any door or window, raising questions about how the supposed intruders even entered the home. The ropes used to tie Babys were suspiciously loose, as if tied by someone inexperienced or someone tying themselves. Then came the biggest breakthrough: Caroline's smartwatch data. Investigators discovered her heart rate spiked and then stopped hours before Babys claimed the robbers entered the home.
It's claimed that data from wearable fitness trackers showed that Caroline died hours earlier than her husband said.
This completely shattered his timeline. Security camera footage also showed key files deleted manually at a time when Babys claimed he was unconscious.
Then, a few days later, footage was released. Footage of a suspicious car and motorbike driving away from the scene. This was around the time Babis said they would have fled the home after killing Caroline and the dog. And a neighbour said that that bike had been in the area days before, circling the block, scoping out the place, covert-like.
Slowly, investigators realized that the entire home invasion story was a lie, and the man who portrayed himself as a grieving husband was actually the prime suspect. The turning point, his lies, collapse. On June 17th, 2021, a month after the murder, Babis was attending Caroline's memorial service on the island of Alonissos.
It was over a month after the murder, while Babis and Caroline's family were at a memorial for young Caroline.
In a moment that stunned the small community, police quietly approached him during the ceremony and asked him to return to Athens to clarify new information.
He asked what's going on, and his reaction is kind of strange and awkward. He told them that the memorial isn't over and asked the officers to let him attend the memorial until the end. They refused to let him and told him for his own good to hide his cell phone and not call anyone, and that they have to leave immediately.
What followed was an 8-hour interrogation where officers presented every inconsistency.
But police now say that the story about a gang was all a lie.
The smartwatch data, the deleted camera footage, the false timeline.
Her memorial service was held on Thursday. And that is when Ananiastopoulos was detained by police and told that they had fresh evidence against him.
Cornered by evidence, Babis finally confessed. He admitted there were no robbers, no intruders, no violent burglary. Instead, he revealed that during a heated argument in the early morning hours, he suffocated Caroline with his own hands. Their baby was in the room as it happened. And in the hours afterward, he staged an entire crime scene, killed the family dog to make the robbery look real, tied himself up, scattered items to suggest a struggle, and called police pretending to be helpless and devastated.
The examination of some evidence, and especially the digital evidence that we'd confiscated from the site, gave us some clues, especially the evidence that showed movement of objects, in particular the husband's phone, during the same time he had testified that he was tied up.
For 37 days, he lied to the country, to reporters, to investigators, and even hugged Caroline's grieving mother while knowing he was the one who killed her daughter. Caroline's diary reveals her silent pain. After his confession, investigators discovered Caroline's personal diary, a heartbreaking collection of handwritten entries that exposed the emotional torment she had been suffering. She wrote about wanting to leave the marriage, feeling trapped, and fearing Babis's controlling behavior.
31st of December 2019. I argued with Babis again, this time a lot. I hit him, I cursed him, and he broke the door. The only thing I wanted was for him to ask if I was well when I woke up. I'm thinking about leaving, going to my sister. I don't know if I can continue with Babis. I love him so much that I can't leave him, even if this relationship is harming me.
Her diary described arguments, manipulation, and attempts to escape the relationship. One of her last entries revealed she had seriously considered separating from him. To prosecutors, these entries proved the marriage was unraveling long before the murder, and they suggested a clear motive. Babis feared losing control over Caroline and possibly custody of their baby. The diary became one of the most powerful pieces of evidence against him. The trial and the verdict. Babis was charged with premeditated murder, animal cruelty for killing the dog, making false statements to police, and staging a fake robbery. His trial began in April 2022 and captivated Greece. Prosecutors argued that this was not a sudden burst of anger, but a calculated act. They said Babis had a history of controlling Caroline and that the murder happened when she attempted to leave with their child. In May 2022, the court agreed. Babis was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison, along with additional years for killing the dog and lying to investigators. He was transferred to one of Greece's highest security prisons, where he remains today. Aftermath. A family left to heal. Caroline's baby daughter was placed in the custody of her maternal grandmother, who vowed to raise her far from the man who destroyed their lives. Caroline's mother stated that one day, when the time is right, the child will learn the truth about what happened to her mother. The case left Greece heartbroken, not only because of the loss of a bright young woman, but because the man responsible pretended to be a victim while deceiving an entire nation. The lies, the manipulation, and the cold staging of the crime scene made the tragedy even more haunting. Conclusion. In a peaceful Athens neighborhood, a family home became the setting for one of Greece's most disturbing crimes.
For weeks, Greece has been shocked by the spectre of a violent, murderous gang. If the police are right, then this horrendous crime instead comes down to the fury of just one man.
A young mother, only 20, was suffocated by her husband, the same man who spent weeks crying on television, begging for justice and misleading investigators. But with the help of technology, persistence, and the truth hidden in Caroline's diary, his lies collapsed. Today, Bobby serves a life sentence while Caroline is remembered as a loving mother whose life was cut far too short. Her story is a reminder that sometimes the monster isn't an intruder, it's someone already inside the home. If you found this story gripping, please like this video, comment your thoughts on this case, and subscribe to Judge Wire for more real crime stories that uncover the truth behind the headlines.
Matthew Johnson is not missing. Matthew Johnson was murdered by the defendant. The defendant confessed to the informant that she shot Matthew in the master bedroom with a gun as he slept in the master bed.
Imagine reporting your husband missing when you already know exactly where he is. This is the story of Jennifer Gledhill, a wife whose lies unraveled into one of Utah's darkest murder cases. The disappearance that started it all. It began on the morning of September 25th, 2024, when the Utah National Guard made a call to local police because one of their own, Matthew Johnson, 51-year-old and a member of their unit, didn't show up for duty.
He's not been to work, his family and his friends have not seen him, there's no phone records or bank records, no activity.
His absence raised alarms, especially because his wife, Jennifer Gledhill, 41, had already reported he had been missing since around September 20th, 2024.
Matthew has not been seen or heard from since September 20th of 2024.
Following an argument at their home in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. From the outside, the Gledhill Johnson family seemed typical. 3 young children, a suburban home in Cottonwood Heights, and what appeared to be normal family life. But beneath that facade, troubling cracks were forming. Earlier in July 2024, Jennifer filed for divorce. Tensions over custody, separation, and alleged infidelity were already part of their story. The strange discovery. When police executed a search warrant for the Gledhill Johnson home, what they found raised immediate red flags. In the master bedroom, they discovered a brand new mattress bought mere days after Matthew's reported disappearance. They found reddish-brown stains on walls, blinds, bed frame, and carpet beneath the bed.
Is a cutout from that rug. Now, the location of that blood stain is consistent with where Matthew would sleep.
The wall behind the bed was marked by a heavy dose of bleach. In fact, a circular stain on the bedroom floor under the head of the bed tested positive for human blood. Added to this, Jennifer's phone, GPS data, and surveillance video all pointed to movements and behavior inconsistent with someone whose spouse simply left. For example, data placed her vehicle at a gas station car wash where she thoroughly cleaned the vehicle on September 22, 2024, a day tied to the timeline investigators believe the murder occurred. The affair and the confession. Investigators uncovered that Jennifer was having an extramarital affair. A confidential informant, the man she was reportedly seeing, told police that on the night of September 22, 2024, Jennifer came to his home visibly upset and made a confession that wired investigators into action. According to his statement, Jennifer said that on September 21, 2024, while Matthew was asleep in their bed, she shot him in the head with his own 9mm Glock handgun. She then wrapped his body, hid it in a rooftop storage container, slid him down the stairs of their home, loaded him into her minivan, drove north, dug a shallow grave, and buried him.
She also confessed that she loaded Matthew's body into a rooftop storage container, slid him down the stairs, and loaded him into the back of her minivan. She confessed that she took Matthew's body north, dug a hole, and buried him in a shallow grave.
She told the informant bruises on her arms and legs were from moving Matthew's body and cleaning the house. She admitted to smashing his phone and hiding his vehicle in a nearby neighborhood.
She confessed that she smashed Matthew's cell phone and hid his truck in a neighborhood near the house.
He recorded the conversation and later gave those recordings and screenshots.
In fact, some of the new evidence the state has are videos taken that night of the defendant and Matthew arguing in the master bedroom.
To police one chilling quote reportedly from Jennifer during a follow-up call. He's not a person. He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt. Arrest and charges. On October 2nd, 2024, Jennifer Gledhill was arrested and taken into custody without bond. On October 15th, 2024, the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office formally filed 9 felony charges against her. First-degree murder, 5 counts of obstruction of justice, possession with intent to distribute, abuse or desecration of a human body, and witness tampering. The body of Matthew Johnson remains unrecovered, a fact that complicates the legal and emotional landscape of the case. Just days later, On October 24, 2024, Jennifer's parents, Thomas Gledhill, 71, and Rosalie Gledhill, 67, were arrested for investigation of obstruction of justice. Police allege they helped clean up the crime scene, purchase a new mattress for Jennifer's home after the incident, and otherwise assist in hiding evidence.
A new mattress on the master bed, a smell of bleach in the house, fresh wipe marks from the cleaning on the wall behind the master bed, and blood found in the carpet underneath the master bed and on the slats of the master bed.
In February 2025, Judge Adam Mao ordered that Jennifer stand trial. She waived her right to a preliminary hearing and pleaded not guilty to all charges. Additionally, in March 2025, a judge denied her bond, citing that she posed a significant danger to the community. She is also ordered to have no contact with her children, ages 11, 7, and 5, either in person or electronically. The judge cited concerns for their safety and the integrity of the investigation. The dark reason behind it all? What truly makes this story chilling is the mixture of motive, confession, and absence of a body. Prosecutors allege Jennifer killed Matthew after he confronted her about the affair. The date of September 20th, 2024 is key. Matthew allegedly told her he knew about her affair. Officials believe that very night or the following early morning, she carried out the act. The forensic evidence supports the timeline, including the mattress purchase, the bleach discoloration, and GPS tracking of Jennifer's phone and vehicle. The confession to the informant gave prosecutors a detailed narrative of the crime in her own words. Still, the lack of a physical body leaves some critical questions unanswered. Where is Matthew Johnson buried? Was anyone else involved in the disposal? Did Jennifer act alone? The involvement of her parents raises additional questions. Were they willing participants?
Night officers have now arrested the parents of the woman accused of killing her husband, a National Guardsman.
Thomas and Rosalie Gledhill have been arrested on 3 counts of obstruction of justice.
Or did they believe they were helping their daughter in some other way? Court documents say the mother purchased the new mattress at Jennifer's request, and the father's phone records place him where the mattress was delivered.
Police say the Gledhills helped their daughter Jennifer clean up the evidence after she murdered Matthew Johnson.
For true crime audiences and documentary creators like your channel Judge Wire, the interplay of life, death, secrecy, and a missing body gives the narrative a haunting edge. Conclusion. In the quiet hills of Cottonwood Heights, the Gledhill Johnson home was transformed from family space to crime scene overnight. What started as a marriage on the brink became an alleged murder plot with haunting implications. A wife is accused of walking into her bed, shooting the man she once called husband, cleaning up the crime scene, burying the body, and then going on with life, all while her 3 children remained in the home. Jennifer Gledhill remains incarcerated, awaiting a trial set for late 2025. The body of Matthew Johnson has still not been located. His family, his fellow National Guardsmen, and the community continue to search not only for answers, but for a way to bring him home. This story is a stark reminder. Sometimes the person who reports someone missing may hold the answers. Sometimes the face of a loving mother hides long-buried secrets.
Police say the parents have not cooperated with the investigation and have not helped to find Johnson's body. Police are still searching for that body tonight.
And sometimes, simple questions. Where is he? Who will tell the truth? Echo longer than any confession. If you found this story gripping, please like this video, comment your thoughts on how you think justice will unfold, and don't forget to subscribe to Judge Wire for more real-life crime stories like this.